Imagine sitting somewhere safe when you're suddenly summoned to another world to become humanity's hero. But instead of receiving an overpowered ability, you're given nothing but poison and paralysis. Judged as useless, you're thrown into a monster-filled dungeon and left to die. What no one realizes is that the weak boy they abandoned will one day return for revenge. That is exactly what happened to our friend Memori. The story begins with a mentally unstable man brutally beating a young boy as he begs for mercy. The man ignores his pleas and continues abusing him. The story then shifts to the present. Memori is riding the school bus with his classmates, and memories reveal that he was likely the same boy from the opening scene. Meanwhile, the class representative Sogu argues with the troublemaker Oyamada after he steals her phone. Although everyone is annoyed, no one dares to confront him. Memori finally steps in and tells him to give it back, but immediately backs down when Oyamada reacts aggressively. Moments later, Takuto, the school's most respected student, calmly orders Oyamada to return everything. Without hesitation, he gives back the phone and the book, claiming it was only a joke. Before anyone can relax, everyone inside the bus suddenly disappears. They awaken inside a medieval kingdom surrounded by armored soldiers, where Queen Vicious welcomes them and reveals that they have been summoned to become heroes and fight the demon empire, which has returned after 200 years. A teacher tells everyone to stay calm while Takuto asks how they can return home if they refuse. The queen explains that the only way back is either to defeat the demon king and obtain the reverse summoning gem from his heart, or to defeat all of the demon commanders and collect theirs. Realizing they have no other choice, Sogu asks how ordinary students are supposed to fight. The queen explains that each of them already possesses dormant powers waiting to awaken. To prove how dangerous this world is, the soldiers force a prisoner to fight a monster. He is killed almost instantly before the queen personally slays the creature. The students are horrified. Afterward, everyone places a hand on a magic crystal to measure their strength. One after another, they reveal extraordinary abilities. Takuto and Sogu both shatter the crystal with their overwhelming magic power, earning the highest rank. Finally, it is Memori's turn. His crystal glows purple, but the queen silently calls for the next student, leaving him confused. As everyone awakens their abilities, Memori discovers that his only skills are paralysis and poison. Then the queen announces one final matter. She orders the soldiers to bring Memori forward. Confused, he wonders what he has done wrong. The soldiers force him onto a magic circle, while the queen declares that he is the weakest hero. Since he is useless, she will send him to a monster-filled dungeon. If he survives, he can return. If not, he will simply die there. Realizing she intends to sacrifice him because of his weak power, Memori collapses in fear. Then, Yasu, the classmate Memori always protected from bullies, approaches him. Desperate, Memori begs for help. Instead, Yasu coldly tells him that someone with the lowest rank, weakest skill, and least power has no value. At that moment, Memori realizes that everyone has abandoned him. The magic circle begins activating. Before teleporting him away, Queen Vicious tosses him a small bag containing a magic tool and sarcastically suggests using it if he somehow survives. Sogu protests, insisting that Memori is their friend and they cannot abandon him. No one listens. Instead, the queen warns her not to interfere before knocking her unconscious with a single strike, making it clear that no one is allowed to question her. Consumed by rage, Memori calls the queen a vile woman before charging at her and using paralysis. She blocks it effortlessly. At the same moment, Takuto launches a blazing fire attack to test her strength, but an invisible barrier completely nullifies it. He calmly claims he was only testing his power. The queen simply warns him not to repeat it because she has no intention of losing her strongest hero. Meanwhile, Memori can do nothing except watch in despair as his fate is sealed. Then, just before disappearing, he hears the voice of a child echo inside his mind. How long are you going to stay weak? How long are you going to stay a coward who only cries? Show them the anger you've been hiding inside. Show them your other side, Memori. At that moment, Memori looks at the queen and says, "I'll come back, and when I do, I'll kill you." Then, in an instant, Memori disappears. He is teleported to a place covered in complete darkness, where not a single source of light can be found. He channels a portion of his mana into the magic tool the queen gave him, causing it to glow and illuminate the path ahead. A few moments later, he discovers skulls and scattered skeletons lying all over the ground, immediately realizing that everyone thrown into this place is doomed to die. Memori concludes that the monsters are responsible for this horrifying scene. Suddenly, one of the monsters ambushes him. He barely manages to dodge its attack at the last second, He runs with everything he has while the monster chases him relentlessly. He has no idea what to do. The only thought running through his mind is that he is going to die. Then without warning, he crashes into something and falls to the ground, feeling as though his life is about to end. At that moment, he remembers the queen and all of his classmates who abandoned him. He tells himself that he has to return and take revenge on them. But how can he do that when he does not even have a weapon? Just then, the monster leaps at him, and Memori activates his ability. He uses paralysis. The monster instantly freezes in place, completely unable to move. Skill actually works. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Memori quickly escapes. However, another monster soon appears in front of him. Every time he escapes one monster, another one stands in his way. Memori begins to lose his composure. He does not want to kill any monsters, but he realizes that if he does not fight back, he will be the one who dies. So he uses paralysis once again, freezing the monster in place. Memori realizes that this ability is the only reason he is still alive. Without it, he would have died long ago. He then opens his status window and discovers that his mana is almost depleted. He already used paralysis once against the queen and twice after arriving here. He realizes that if he cannot recover his mana, he will die. After that, he activates his second ability, Poison. The monster's body begins turning black, while blood starts pouring out from different parts of its body. Memori tries to finish it off and recover his mana, but the monster refuses to die. Suddenly, the first monster appears again. It seems that the paralysis effect has finally worn off. At that moment, Memori has completely exhausted his mana and can no longer use any of his abilities. His entire life flashes before his eyes, from the days when he was a child being beaten, to the moment the queen and his classmates abandoned him in this place. He shouts, "I'll kill every last one of you. I'll make you all pay." He tries to attack the monster, but his body no longer has any strength left. Then, all of a sudden, he hears a voice coming from his ability system. The voice tells him that he cannot use the same status effect on the same monster twice, but he can use a different one, such as sleep. Memori immediately activates it, causing the monster to fall into a deep sleep. At that moment, Memori finally understands how his ability works. The same skill cannot affect the same monster twice. He then uses poison again, hoping to recover his mana. But just then, a large group of monsters appears. Memori realizes that using his abilities on all of them will completely drain his mana, so he desperately starts searching for another solution. Finally, he risks everything and activates paralysis on every monster at the same time. To his surprise, he successfully freezes every single one of them. However, it is not over yet, as another group of monsters soon appears. Memori realizes that death is closing in, yet he attacks them without hesitation. Unfortunately, there are simply too many of them, and he can no longer keep fighting. At that point, he decides to use every last bit of strength he has left to wear down the monsters chasing him. Then, all of a sudden, his mana starts recovering. Part of his strength returns, and he attacks the monsters one after another until none of them can move anymore. He soon notices that every time a monster dies, he gains its power points. That is when he realizes that defeating monsters rewards him with experience points, stat points, and skill points. From then on, he begins paralyzing every monster with paralysis. Afterward, he walks over to the immobilized monsters and finishes them all off using poison. He wipes them out completely. After that, he opens his status window and discovers that his level has increased and the number of times he can use his skills has also risen. He takes a short break while his level continues increasing with every monster that dies. Then he stands up and goes after the remaining monsters, this time using sleep. He knows very well that if he does not kill them, they will kill him instead. His sleep skill reaches level 2, while paralysis climbs all the way to level 335. Before long, the monsters become nothing more than training targets. The more he defeats, the stronger he grows. In the end, every monster in the area is dead. Only a handful remain, but they immediately run away the moment they see him. Afterward, Memori begins exploring the area and eventually finds a skeleton carrying a weapon along with several belongings. He offers a silent prayer for the dead, then takes the weapon and the supplies. He tells himself that he has to find food and water, or he will eventually starve to death. As time passes, hunger slowly causes him to lose consciousness. Later, he arrives at a place filled with the remains of countless human skeletons. He immediately realizes that the monsters slaughtered every one of them. Unable to find any food, he turns toward the monsters he killed. He tries to eat one of them, but his knife cannot even pierce their skin because their bodies are unbelievably tough. The only thing he manages to remove is one of their eyes. However, acid pours out of it, and the moment he tries to eat it, he immediately gives up. In the end, he lies down beside one of the monsters and concludes that this place was created for one purpose alone, to kill humans. If the monsters do not kill them, starvation will. Then all of a sudden, he notices that the stone inside his magic tool has become much brighter. Moments later, new items begin appearing inside the bag that were not there before. To his complete shock, he finds food inside. He cannot believe his eyes because the bag was completely empty from the very beginning. Without wasting another second, he starts eating and drinking, while tears of joy stream down his face. Memori tells himself that he has to preserve the food because the bag might never produce food again. After that, Memori's strength grows tremendously. Before long, he is charging straight into groups of monsters and wiping them out within seconds. Even so, he is in terrible mental condition. He keeps telling himself that he has no right to kill those monsters. His mind drifts back to the past, when he was just a child, swearing to the man who abused him, "One day, I'll kill you." It is then revealed that the man was his mother's husband. Eventually, his aunt and uncle discover what has been happening and take Memori away to live with them. Returning to the present, Memori tells himself that he has to accept what he has become. If he does not kill the monsters, he will die, and he refuses to die before taking revenge on the queen and everyone who betrayed him. From that moment on, he does nothing except hunt monsters and continuously raise his level. Sometime later, he discovers a gem embedded in one of the walls. He channels part of his mana into it, causing a hidden door to open. The moment he steps inside, he is shocked to find even more skeletons. It is obvious that the people here were trapped until they eventually died. He opens a bag lying beside them and finds several precious gems inside. He tells himself that if he ever manages to survive and reach the surface, they will certainly be useful, so he takes them with him. He then enters another chamber, but this room drains a large amount of his mana. As soon as the door opens, he finds another skeleton. This time, however, the dead man left behind a letter. Memori reads it and learns that its owner was the dark hero Anglin. He immediately remembers Queen Vicious mentioning that Anglin was once the strongest hero in the kingdom. As he continues reading, he discovers that Queen Vicious was the one who threw Anglin into this place by force. She had decided that his mission was over and that she no longer needed him, so she disposed of him in exactly the same way. While searching through Anglin's belongings, Memori finds the Book of Forbidden Arts. He is stunned because he fully understands how valuable that book is. He also discovers a scroll containing forbidden magic. After collecting everything, he leaves the room. While walking, he notices strange writing inside the book, only to find a message written in blood. "Beware of the Soul Eater. Everyone is dead." At that moment, Memori begins to lose hope of escaping. He tells himself that if even the dark hero could not survive, how could he possibly succeed? Then, all of a sudden, he notices the head of a strange creature in front of him. A small magic stone is embedded in its forehead, so he decides to take it. The moment he reaches behind the wall, the head suddenly lunges at him and completely severs one of his arms. He quickly retreats and wraps his arm with a piece of cloth to stop the bleeding. Then he desperately starts searching for a way to survive because he knows that if he steps out in front of that creature, he will die within seconds. Suddenly, the room begins collapsing from every direction, and the monster finally reveals its full body. At that moment, Memori realizes that this is the very Soul Eater mentioned in the warning. The monster then begins secreting a strange liquid from its body. Moments later, the liquid transforms into countless small monsters, creating an incredibly disgusting sight. Then, without warning, the ground behind Memori collapses, revealing another Soul Eater behind him. He is completely surrounded. However, Memori uses paralysis on the small monsters, successfully freezing them in place. He is about to finish them off with poison, but stops himself at the last second, saying that he is not a murderer and cannot bring himself to kill them. That moment of hesitation gives the monsters enough time to summon even more small creatures. Soon, they all begin attacking him while he stands there doing nothing but crying. Finally, he regains his composure, as if he has become an entirely different person. In a single instant, he casts paralysis on the Soul Eater, freezing the monster and knocking it to the ground. He quietly says, "Enough, it's over." Then he tells himself that the child who once lived inside him is gone forever. The slightest hesitation, he uses poison to wipe out every one of the small monsters. After that, he walks toward the Soul Eater and says that he is glad he was finally able to defeat them, and that his strength continues to grow. He then delivers one final poison attack and kills the Soul Eater once and for all. The moment it dies, the souls of everyone it had devoured emerge from its body. They thank Memori for setting them free before peacefully disappearing. Afterward, Memori takes the magic stone from the monster's head and places it into the door. The door finally opens, allowing him to escape from that dreadful place. Meanwhile, the summoned heroes are fighting forest monsters to test their newly awakened powers. Their strength has clearly increased. However, Asagi is unable to kill the monsters. She says they have never harmed her, so she cannot understand why she has to kill them. At that moment, Ikusaba arrives. She tells Asagi that if she refuses to kill alongside them, they will simply leave her behind to die. She then orders her to kill the monster and join her team. After that, they bring a restrained monster before her. Once again, Ikusaba tells her to kill it and become part of their group. The monster trembles in fear, but Asagi finally makes up her mind and kills it. The moment she does, she collapses to the ground in tears because she has just killed a small monster. She remembers how, back in her own world, she loved taking care of animals, and how Memori was always by her side. During that time, Sogu finally regains consciousness. She immediately heads to Queen Vicious and angrily demands to know what she did to Memori, asking how she could possibly treat him that way. The queen pretends to cry and claims that these are simply the kingdom's laws, insisting that she cannot break them. She then explains that the heroes have gone into the forest to test their abilities and that most of the weaker heroes have already died there. Hearing that, Sogu becomes furious and realizes that the queen is responsible for their deaths. She declares that, as a special rank hero, she will fight alongside the kingdom against the demon kingdom, but only on one condition. The queen must never interfere with the weaker heroes again, or kill any of them. Queen Vicious immediately agrees and shakes her hand, because this was exactly what she wanted from the very beginning. Elsewhere, the princess of the kingdom of Urza is fleeing through the forest from a group of criminals who want to kill her and steal everything she owns. They continue chasing her relentlessly, determined to finish her off. At the same time, Memori enters the forest. He tells himself that he needs a weapon, or at least someone who can show him the way to the kingdom of Vicious. He then opens his status window, reviews some of his abilities, and continues deeper into the forest. Suddenly, he hears the sounds of small monsters. However, he quickly discovers that they are nothing more than magical slimes. He decides to test his new abilities on them, using paralysis to freeze every single slime. He then attacks them with poison and discovers that he can also remove both the poison and paralysis effects whenever he wants, as though nothing had ever happened. Once he cancels the effects, all of the slimes immediately run away, all except one. Memori begins talking to it and tells it never to let anyone hurt it again. He then continues on his way, but the little slime starts following him. Being a magical creature, it is able to understand what he is saying. Memori asks why it keeps following him, then jokingly wonders if its companions betrayed it just like his own companions betrayed him. Meanwhile, the princess of the kingdom of Urza is still lost in the forest while the criminals continue hunting her down. As for Memori, he sits on top of a tree with the little slime resting on his shoulder, reading through the book and discovering many valuable pieces of information, including a monster enhancement solution. The book also explains methods for strengthening or weakening magic, enhancing the user's abilities, and empowering living creatures. After reading it, Memori concludes that the book is nothing less than a priceless treasure. Afterward, Memori tells the little slime to leave and stop following him because he is on his way to seek revenge and it could lose its life if it stays by his side. However, the slime refuses to leave, while Memori decides to venture deeper into the forest to figure out where he is. Elsewhere, the princess finally reaches her limit. She admits that she can no longer keep running and that fighting is her only remaining option. At that very moment, the criminals spot her. They also notice Memori standing nearby. One of them says that the girl is not alone and that it does not matter who the other person is. He then orders Memori to hand over everything he owns. Pretending to be weak, Memori calmly asks them what they want. The man replies that they are going to take everything he has, kill him afterward, and use the opportunity to test out his new sword. While they are distracted by the conversation, Memori tries to slip away. But the man stops him, shouting that he has not tested his sword on him yet. Memori replies that he does not want any trouble, and asks them to leave him alone. Instead, the man charges at him with his sword. Without hesitation, Memori uses paralysis, instantly freezing the man where he stands. At that moment, Memori's expression completely changes. He tells them that they think far too highly of themselves. He has already defeated monsters that are far stronger than they could ever hope to be, while they are nothing more than a group of weak criminals. The others are overcome with shock and fear, wondering who he really is. As for Mimori, he realizes they are nothing but criminals, so he has no reason to hesitate. He immediately casts poison on all of them and wipes them out completely. The princess notices that all of their presences have disappeared, immediately realizing that every one of them is dead. Then she senses someone standing behind her. The moment she turns around, Mimori appears before her. She is about to attack him, but within seconds he uses paralysis on her. He calmly tells her not to be afraid because he has no intention of killing her. He only wants to ask her a few questions. She asks whether he was the one who killed those criminals. Mimori confirms that he did, explaining that they were nothing more than ordinary criminals. Realizing how powerful he is, the princess thanks him for saving her life and asks how she can repay him. During their conversation, Mimori learns that he is not inside the kingdom of Vicious, but in the territory of Urza, and that reaching the kingdom of Vicious will take a long time. He then takes out the magic scroll and asks if she can read it. She tries, but tells him that it is written in an ancient language she cannot understand. However, she mentions a famous person known as the Forbidden Sorcerer, the only one capable of reading the scroll. She also warns him that the sorcerer lives in the land of the cursed monsters, the most dangerous place in the entire world, where no one who has entered has ever returned alive. Mimori tells her that the paralysis effect will wear off in about 2 minutes. Then he leaves, clearly heading toward the land of the cursed monsters. 2 days later, our friend Mimori arrives at the city of Mills. A guard stops him at the gate and asks why he has come to the city. He answers that he is looking for a job where he can earn some money. The guard says that he looks like a mercenary and allows him to enter. Afterward, he heads to an inn, but the owner greets him with a rude attitude. The moment Mimori takes out his money, the man's behavior changes completely, and he welcomes him with great respect. Mimori simply looks at him, realizing that the man respects nothing except money. He goes up to his room, changes into different clothes, and then heads to a restaurant for a meal. While walking through the city, he notices how peaceful it is. There are no signs of chaos or criminal activity anywhere. He then sits near a group of young men and quietly listens to their conversation. From them, he learns that the strongest knights on the continent are the Dragon Knights of the Paxus Empire. Those knights are considered extremely dangerous because they fight while riding dragons. After gathering that information, Mimori returns to his room and also brings some food for the little slime. He tells himself that his next destination is the land of the Forbidden, so he can find the Forbidden Sorcerer and have the magic scroll translated. He also wants to create the monster enhancement solution, but to do that, he first needs the Bone King's bone. He then remembers that the young men in the restaurant mentioned that the Bone King can be found in the city of Mills. The following morning, he sees a man gathering hunters together in one of the city's streets. The man introduces himself as Creed and announces that a newly discovered cave has recently appeared, with monsters beginning to emerge from it. He asks mercenaries and adventurers to clear the cave, eliminate the monsters inside, and recover its hidden treasures. He also announces a monetary reward, along with a Dragon Eye cup for everyone who participates in the mission. Hearing that, Mimori wonders if the Bone King's bone might be hidden somewhere inside the cave, so he decides to join the expedition. Everyone lines up, preparing to enter. At that moment, one of Creed's soldiers arrives and walks toward a young woman standing among the crowd. He asks in surprise why she is there and whether she has come to throw her life away. The mercenaries quickly recognize her, revealing that she is the same princess Mimori met in the forest. It also becomes clear that a huge reward has been offered to anyone who returns her to the kingdom. The soldier then publicly reveals her identity, announcing that she is Princess Night Mist, who fled the kingdom, and that a large bounty has been placed on her capture. However, Mist does not look frightened in the slightest. She confidently declares her name and warns everyone to stay away from her, making it clear that anyone who approaches will be cut down, causing the soldier to step back in fear. Anyway, after that, all of the adventurers register their names before leaving. Mimori tells himself that he should buy a few supplies before entering the cave. At that moment, the princess catches up with him and asks if he is planning to enter the cave as well. He replies that he is, more or less, but warns her about the soldier who ran away from her earlier, explaining that his intentions do not seem good. The princess tells him not to worry about it. Mimori then says that he needs to buy some supplies and asks if she would come with him and help him choose what he needs. She agrees and introduces herself as Mist. As for Mimori, he does not tell her his real name. A moment later, however, Mimori admits the truth himself. He tells her that the name he gave her is not his real one, and that Mist is not her real name either. He adds that it does not matter for now and suggests they get going. After that, they head to a weapon shop, where Mimori buys several weapons while the princess helps him choose them. Of course, her assistance is not free, and she makes him pay for her help. Just as she is about to leave, she suddenly collapses to the ground. Looking at her, Mimori remarks that she seems completely exhausted. The girl explains that she has not slept for 3 days. Even so, she forces herself back to her feet and immediately leaves. Right after that, Mimori heads toward the cave. However, most of the mercenaries inside are running away in panic, shouting that there is a demon lurking within. Suddenly, one of the monsters attacks Mimori, but he effortlessly uses poison and kills it. A short while later, the other mercenaries arrive to deal with the monster, only to find it already dead without a single visible wound. They are left in complete shock, wondering how it could have died like that. Mimori checks his status window and notices that he did not gain any experience points because the monsters inside the cave are simply too weak. He then notices the same soldier asking 2 mercenaries to kill the girl who humiliated him, promising to reward them with anything they want. At that moment, Mimori walks over and tells them that they are nothing more than criminals and that he enjoys killing criminals. One of them becomes furious and tells Mimori that he has no idea who he is talking to, warning that they will kill him right there. Mimori simply mocks them, sarcastically begging them to spare his life. The moment they charge at him, he activates paralysis, instantly freezing all of them in place. They stare at him in shock, and one of them asks who he really is. Mimori replies that they remind him of the man who used to abuse him when he was a child. He then declares that he is going to kill every one of them. Without hesitation, he casts poison and wipes them all out. One of the men screams that he will never let Mimori escape, but Mimori laughs and tells him that he is already dead. Afterward, Mimori lies down to rest for a while. When he wakes up, he decides it is time to venture deeper into the cave. He has already eliminated most of the monsters, allowing him to move around much more freely. Along the way, he runs into a group of mercenaries. Their leader explains that all of the monsters inside the cave have been dying in a mysterious way. He adds that they have decided to withdraw and asks Mimori to leave with them. However, Mimori refuses and tells them to go on without him because he intends to continue exploring alone. Fortunately, none of them become suspicious of him. Mimori continues deeper into the cave until he reaches a chamber containing the Dragon Eye Cup. He also notices what appears to be a dragon statue. Moments later, he realizes that it is not a statue at all, but a real dragon. He kills it within seconds. Then he takes the cup. At that very moment, he senses someone standing behind him. Turning around, he finds the princess. She tells him that she has spent 2 whole days searching for the Dragon Eye Cup, yet he managed to find it so easily. Mimori tells her that if she wants it, she can have it. She is stunned and asks if he is really willing to hand it over that easily. Without hesitation, Mimori gives her the cup. He then opens a passage leading underground. He explains that the monsters below are his true objective, not the cup itself. The princess offers to repay part of the favor by accompanying him below. Mimori accepts. After they descend, Mist defeats one of the monsters within moments. She then begins explaining several things about the Demon King and the kingdom. However, Mimori interrupts her, saying that they are both tired and should rest for a while. Meanwhile, the 5 Night Forces, known as the Black Dragon Group, have been assigned to capture the princess, who is currently traveling with Mimori. At the same time, Mimori and the princess are inside one of the chambers when they suddenly sense something unusual. They approach the entrance, and Mimori immediately tells her to get back. Without warning, a monster smashes through the wall and bursts into the room. The monster is none other than the Bone King. Mist tells Mimori that if they can strike a certain weak point, they will be able to defeat it. She draws her sword and declares that she will fight with everything she has. At the same time, the Bone King begins preparing a deadly attack powerful enough to kill both of them. Before it can move, Mimori activates paralysis. The monster instantly freezes in place, completely unable to move. Mist is left speechless. She asks whether he is the one responsible for killing all the monsters inside the cave and wonders what his true ability is. Instead of answering, Mimori immediately follows up with poison, killing the Bone King within seconds. Afterward, he walks over to the monster's skull and removes the item he needs to create the enhancement solution. Mist asks if he really defeated the entire monster just for that single item. Mimori replies that this is not the time for explanations and tells her they need to leave immediately. As they prepare to depart, the little slime points toward a nearby spot. Mimori walks over and discovers a giant egg hidden beneath a piece of cloth. It is obvious that this is no ordinary egg, so he takes it with him. Meanwhile, the other heroes are battling a group of skeletons that nearly overwhelms them. Fortunately, Takuto and Oyamata step in and save everyone. It only takes the two of them a few moments to destroy all of the skeletons. Afterward, Princess Mist presents the Dragon Eye Cup to the adventurers, leaving them completely stunned and unable to believe what they are seeing. At that point, Momori says that he has already obtained what he came for and that it is time for him to leave. But Mist walks over to thank him for giving her the Dragon Eye Cup. Momori says, "How about we talk for a while tonight?" The girl agrees. After that, Momori returns to his room, opens the book, and successfully creates the enhancement solution. He then says that he will test it on the little slime later. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Momori opens it and finds Mist standing outside. It turns out that he wanted to speak with her because he wanted to ask her to become his personal bodyguard. He then unfolds a map and tells her that he is heading to the place where the forbidden sorcerer lives. He explains that he wants her to accompany him because that land is cursed and filled with monsters. She tells him that she must first travel to Yunato, and after that, they can continue toward the cursed land together. However, Momori surprises her by saying that her real name is Saras. She freezes in shock and asks how he knows that. Momori explains that while they were inside the cave, she accidentally said her real name in her sleep. At that point, Saras admits the truth and reveals her true appearance. Momori then tells her that his real name is Momori, and that they will travel together until they reach the cursed land. Saras agrees to accompany him, unaware that the Black Dragon Knights are already searching for her. After that, Momori takes out a diamond and hands it to her as payment. Saras stares at it in disbelief and tells him that the gem is incredibly rare because it can only be found inside the eyes of blue dragons. As for Momori, he had discovered an entire bag filled with diamonds while he was trapped in that deadly place. Afterward, the two of them head to a restaurant for a meal. During dinner, Momori asks why no one seems to recognize the magic scroll he possesses. Saras explains that it contains forbidden magic, and that Queen Vicious personally outlawed this type of magic throughout the entire country. At that moment, Momori realizes that the scroll contains an extremely dangerous spell. After they finish eating, Saras leaves. Meanwhile, Momori heads into the forest to test the enhancement solution on the little slime. At the same time, Saras attends a celebration held in her honor after obtaining the Dragon Eye Cup. Suddenly, a mysterious man enters the hall. The moment Saras sees him, she is visibly shocked. Meanwhile, Momori waits for her outside the restaurant, but she never arrives. Elsewhere, Queen Vicious is sitting together with Sogu. She praises the heroes for successfully wiping out the entire skeleton army. However, Sogu tells her that Sakura was injured during the battle. The queen reassures her that she will personally take care of Sakura's treatment. She then asks Sogu why she still has not joined Takuto's team. Sogu replies that Takuto has changed a lot. He no longer acknowledges anyone else, which is why she has no desire to join his party. The queen says that she is worried about Sogu, fearing that she might lose her life in one of the upcoming battles. Sogu thanks her for her concern before leaving. At that very moment, Momori suddenly feels that something has happened to Saras. He tells himself that she would never disappear without a reason, so he begins searching for her throughout the city. While looking around, he overhears two men talking about Knight Saras. They mention that she fled into the dark forest and that they need to capture her to claim the reward. At that same moment, the Black Dragon Knights arrive in the city in search of Saras. Meanwhile, Saras is running through the forest, unsure of what to do next. Unfortunately for her, the Black Dragon Knights eventually catch up with her. Without wasting a second, she draws her sword and prepares to fight. One of the knights suddenly dives from above on the back of his dragon, launching a direct attack at Saras. She counters with a single swing of her sword, killing both the knight and his dragon at the same time. It becomes clear that her swordsmanship is exceptional. However, the number of dragon knights is overwhelming, and she is fighting them all by herself. Another knight attacks, but Saras manages to knock his dragon out of the sky. Suddenly, another dragon appears behind her. Before she can escape, the vice commander, Urban, blocks her path and asks where she thinks she is going, confidently declaring that there is no escape. He immediately charges toward her. His attack strikes her leg, causing her to collapse to the ground as her sword flies out of her hand. At that point, Saras gives up. She tells him that she is exhausted and asks him to finish it. Just as Urban raises his sword to kill her, Momori suddenly appears and uses paralysis on him, saving her at the very last moment. Saras tells Momori that it is not over yet and that they need to escape before the rest of the squad arrives. However, Momori calmly tells her not to worry. He then walks over to Urban and says that if he answers one question, he will let him live. Urban responds with a mocking laugh, insisting that the rest of the squad will kill both Momori and Saras Summaries. But at that very moment, a sword suddenly falls from above and kills Urban within seconds. It turns out that his own comrades killed him because they believed he was about to reveal their secrets. Soon afterward, the commander of the entire squad, Civet, steps forward. He says that he has finally found Summaries. The moment Memori sees him, he immediately realizes that these Dragon Knights are far more dangerous than anyone he has fought before. He tells himself that the enemies he defeated in the past cannot even be compared to these warriors. Elsewhere, an old man wakes up from a terrible nightmare involving Summaries. He declares that he is willing to pay any price, even sacrifice his own life, if it means Summaries dies. It appears that he is the one who ordered the Dragon Knights to eliminate her. After that, Civet tells Summaries that Emperor Ortola personally issued the order to execute her. She freezes in shock, as though she knows him very well. Civet calmly explains that it is simply a mission, and that there are no personal feelings involved. Meanwhile, Memori grows increasingly anxious as he searches for a way out of the situation. One of the knights asks what they should do with Memori. Another replies that they will kill him along with Summaries. However, Civet proposes a sword duel to Summaries, promising that if she defeats him, he will allow her to leave. He explains that he wants to test the power of the spirit cloak she possesses. While speaking, he presses a dagger against Memori's neck. He asks who Memori is and what he is doing here. Memori simply replies that he wants to talk. Civet then asks for his name. Memori gives him a fake name. However, Civet immediately realizes that Memori is hiding something. He orders the other knights to keep a close eye on him, explaining that he is not afraid of them and could attack at any moment. At that point, Memori realizes that Civet has already seen through his intentions because he had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Memori then asks Civet to leave Summaries alone and focus on finding a stronger opponent instead. Civet replies that he does not see anyone stronger than her and says that he is always searching for the strongest warriors. He once again tells Summaries to surrender, claiming that she is responsible for the kingdom's downfall so that he will not be forced to kill both her and Memori. At that moment, Memori smiles after coming up with an idea. He asks Civet whether he is truly searching for powerful opponents. Civet answers without hesitation that he is. Memori then declares that he will be Civet's next opponent and that he will be the one to defeat him. He also reveals that he is a hero summoned from another world. All of the Dragon Knights are stunned because this is exactly the kind of opponent Civet has always wanted. Civet asks about the other heroes and wonders why Memori is alone. Memori confidently replies that he is stronger than all of them, which is why he travels alone. That answer excites Civet even more. However, Memori tells him that their battle will not happen today and that he should let him leave. Civet asks what he would gain from doing that. Memori replies that he will continue growing stronger and that their future battle will be utterly devastating. By saying this, Memori cleverly takes advantage of Civet's obsession with fighting powerful opponents after realizing how deeply he craves such battles. In the end, Civet agrees to meet him again in the future. However, he sets one condition. Memori must leave alone while Summaries stays behind. Memori refuses, telling him that Summaries is coming with him because he is heading to the cursed land to grow stronger, and he needs her by his side. Civet laughs before finally agreeing, saying that he wants Memori to become much stronger so that he will not die the moment their fight begins. One of the Dragon Knight's objects and reminds Civet of the mission they were assigned. But Civet completely ignores the protest, insisting that the only thing he truly wants is for Memori to become stronger. After that, he orders his knights to withdraw and they all leave. In this way, Memori manages to escape the situation without shedding a single drop of blood. However, the moment the Dragon Knights move away, Memori betrays them from behind. He instantly casts paralysis, causing every one of the knights to collapse to the ground. He had been pretending to be weak the entire time, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to eliminate them. Then he looks at Civet and says that he is sorry, but he does not have time for a long battle. He calmly adds that he is going to finish him right here. Memori follows up with his final attack, Poison. The Dragon Knights collapse to the ground screaming as blood begins pouring from their bodies. The only one still standing is Civet, who desperately struggles to resist the poison. However, his end is already near. He attempts one final attack with his sword, but his body no longer obeys him, and blood starts flowing from every part of his body. Just before one of the Dragon Knights breathes his last, his body suddenly explodes like fireworks, releasing a distress signal to the rest of the squad. Only moments later, the remaining Dragon Knights arrive on the backs of their dragons. At that point, Memori tells Saras to run away because he intends to stay behind until he is certain every last one of them is dead. She refuses to leave him and insists that she will fight by his side. The Dragon Knights are horrified when they see Civet on the verge of death, wondering who could have defeated him. With his remaining strength, Civet orders them to attack Memori from a distance and kill him. At that moment, Memori merges with the little slime after using the enhancement solution on it. He then launches himself into the sky toward the Dragon Knights and casts paralysis on every one of them. One after another, both the knights and their dragons fall from the sky. Civet watches helplessly as all of his men crash to the ground before his eyes, unable to do anything, nearly losing his sanity. However, the Dragon Knights prove to be far more resilient than Memori expected. Because of that, he continues torturing them until they completely exhaust their strength, almost as if he enjoys what he is doing. In the end, he kills every last one of them. The only survivor is Civet, who is barely clinging to life. Looking at Memori, Civet asks who he really is. Memori replies that he is the man who will eliminate anyone standing in his way. Moments later, Civet breathes his last. Saras thanks Memori for saving her life. However, Memori tells her that they need to hide all of the bodies. Meanwhile, Sogu and the other heroes prepare for a new mission. One of the girls announces that she will serve as the team's leader under Queen Vicious' orders. Oyamata objects to taking orders from her. Without hesitation, the girl lands a powerful blow that knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, Memori and Saras successfully hide all of the bodies before leaving the area. Later, Memori arrives at the city of Koshkal. A mask displayed for sale immediately catches his attention. The merchant tells him that it is the mask of the demon lord who once devastated the land before his entire army was eventually destroyed. Fascinated by the story, Memori buys the mask and returns to his camp. After putting it on, he says that he may not be a hero, but one day he will destroy Vicious. Revenge has now become the only thing on his mind. Elsewhere, a meeting is held in the kingdom of Magnar. The commander expresses his shock over the deaths of the 5 Dragon Knights, along with the rest of their squad. Queen Vicious attends the meeting alongside the rulers of the other kingdoms. One of the kings explains that they searched the forest and personally saw the bodies. Vicious says that the Dragon Knights had been pursuing Princess Saras. However, Queen Ashen dismisses the idea that Saras alone could have killed all of them and asks whether anyone knows where she is now. One of the kings replies that they found some of Saras's clothing at the battlefield, along with massive amounts of blood, suggesting that she suffered severe injuries. In reality, all of that was part of Memori's plan because he had already anticipated that they would investigate the battlefield. Vicious states that losing the Dragon Knights will deal a devastating blow to the war against the demons. She adds that the burden will now fall entirely upon the heroes from another world. Queen Alien replies that the responsibility now rests with Vicious and the heroes she summoned. Vicious confidently says that the heroes are determined to defeat the Demon King, obtain the jewel hidden inside his heart, and return to their own world. Suddenly, a soldier enters and reports that a man in the city of Urza is claiming to be the one who killed the Dragon Knights. Meanwhile, Memori and Saras continue walking through the city. Saras tells him that the road leading to the cursed land lies on the left side of the city. Soon, Memori stops in front of a place filled with loud cheering. Saras explains that it is a fighting arena where mercenaries and slaves battle each other. There are no rules there. Whoever dies, dies. Whoever survives, survives. Afterward, they check into an inn. To save money, they rent only a single room. They then head to the restaurant for dinner. While eating, they overhear people discussing the deaths of the Dragon Knights. One man claims that Princess Saras killed them all and says that fortunately no one knows what she really looks like. Another adds that the cursed magic user known as Ashint was the one who helped her. This is the first time Memori has ever heard that name, making him realize that someone else is manipulating events from behind the scenes. Suddenly, 4 people enter the restaurant and boldly announce that they are followers of the cursed magic user Ashint. As for Memori, he decides it is better to let them take credit for killing the Dragon Knights so that suspicion stays away from him. While all of this is happening, he overhears 2 men talking about the Forbidden Witch. He immediately approaches them and offers to pay for their meal if they tell him everything they know about her. They agree. They explain that only one person has ever managed to reach the Forbidden Witch. That person is the fighter Eve, the #1 champion in the city's arena. At that very moment, Eve walks into the restaurant. One of the men tells Memori that his luck is incredible because Eve has just arrived. Memori immediately approaches her and starts a conversation. However, Eve tells him to get straight to the point. He asks her about the Forbidden Witch. She first corrects him, explaining that the Forbidden Witch is a woman, not a man. She then tells him that she has indeed traveled to the Cursed Land, but she never actually met the witch, and that everything people say about her is nothing more than rumors. She also warns him that no one who enters the cursed land ever comes back alive. After saying that, she leaves. Later, Mimori and Saras return to their room. Mimori brings her some sweets, and she enjoys them very much. Elsewhere, Eve visits a mysterious girl and tells her that she has kept her promise to leave that place. Meanwhile, Saras continues training without stopping. From time to time, Mimori tests her by launching surprise attacks against her. Even so, she defeats him every single time. In the end, Mimori tells her that her reaction speed is truly incredible. After that, Saras is busy washing clothes when Mimori asks her to wash his clothes as well. Jokingly, she tells him that he is treating her like his personal maid. Mimori simply jokes back. Later that night, Saras goes to sleep while Mimori stays awake reading his magic book. The following morning, he notices an announcement advertising Eve's match in the arena the next day. Saras then explains that Eve was once the slave of a wealthy noble before she was sold to the Colosseum. Since then, she has been forced to fight there against her will. After hearing that, Mimori says that tomorrow's match will be her last. She has already earned enough money to buy her freedom. However, Saras explains that Eve does not want to free only herself. She is also trying to rescue another girl imprisoned alongside her. She adds that the real problem is that the arena's owner has no intention of letting Eve obtain her freedom so easily. Right afterward, Mimori goes to meet Eve. He tells her that he wants to talk. However, she reminds him that she has already said she knows nothing about the Forbidden Witch. At that moment, Saras appears and asks her why she is lying. Eve tells both of them to stay away before she is forced to kill them. But Mimori tells her that they are on the same side, and that he wants to help her. She asks what exactly he intends to save her from. Mimori replies that the arena owner will deliberately make sure she loses tomorrow's match, and will never allow either her or the girl with her to gain their freedom. Eve is stunned and asks how he knows about that girl. Saras explains that they know Eve has spent the last 3 years fighting to free the little girl, Liz. Even so, Eve insists that she cannot back out of tomorrow's final match. Mimori then suggests kidnapping Liz and escaping together. However, Eve refuses. She says she must earn her freedom legally because if she runs away, the arena owner Zwan will send soldiers to hunt her down wherever she goes. Mimori tells her that there is one place where no one will ever be able to reach her, the Cursed Land. He explains that this plan would accomplish 2 goals at once. Eve could hide there while he searches for the Forbidden Witch. However, Eve argues that reaching the Cursed Land is impossible because the monsters would kill them, and that even Saras is not strong enough to survive there. Mimori confidently tells her that he will protect both of them. She does not believe him. To prove his point, Mimori reveals that he was the one who killed the Dragon Knights, and says that he is more than capable of protecting them. Even then, Eve refuses to believe him, so Mimori casts paralysis on her. She immediately realizes just how terrifying his ability is, as she becomes completely unable to move. At the same time, Saras reveals her true identity and tells Eve that she is Princess Saras. Afterward, Mimori releases her from paralysis. Even so, Eve says that none of it changes anything, because she will fight in tomorrow's match no matter what. Mimori asks whether she truly believes Zwan will keep his promise and grant her freedom, implies that she will claim her freedom herself, no matter the cost. Hearing that, Mimori decides to leave. Before he goes, Eve asks where she can find him if she changes her mind. He tells her that he will leave the city the following day, and that if she wants to meet him, she should come to the bridge. Meanwhile, the people claiming to be followers of Ashant surround a house, accusing its owners of being cursed. They are repeating the same scheme throughout different parts of the city. While Mimori and Saras are walking through the streets, they encounter those men once again. This time, they are trying to drag away a young girl by force while accusing her of being cursed. The girl cries and desperately refuses to go with them. Without hesitation, Mimori steps in. He uses madness on them. They instantly descend into complete insanity, attacking and biting one another like wild animals. Afterward, Mimori and Saras quietly leave the scene. As they continue walking, Saras asks whether he really believes Zwan would free Eve if she wins. Mimori answers no. He explains that Eve earns an enormous amount of money through her matches, so Zwan would never willingly let her go. Meanwhile, Eve keeps thinking about everything Mimori told her. Eventually, she decides to find out the truth for herself. She secretly makes her way to Zwan's room. There, she overhears him talking to one of his men. She quickly realizes that Zwan is even worse than she imagined. He tells his men that they are going to kill Eve during tomorrow's match. Before the fight begins, they will secretly poison her with a drug that will paralyze her body. Eve is left completely shocked as she listens from outside. Zwan then continues explaining his plan, saying that her opponent will cut off her head in front of the entire audience. As if that were not enough, he also declares that he will bring Lise to the arena, and once she grows up, force her to fight there as well. At that moment, Eve reaches the limit of her anger. She almost storms into the room to kill him, but manages to restrain herself and walks away instead. While leaving, she runs into the fighter who is scheduled to face her in tomorrow's match. He tells her that he will be her opponent. She simply smiles and replies that it should be an interesting fight before continuing on her way. Afterward, she heads straight to the bridge where Memori is waiting. The moment he sees her, he immediately realizes that she has learned the truth. She tells him that they are planning to kill her during the match. Memori then says that it is time to kidnap Lise and head directly to the Cursed Land. Meanwhile, Lise is working inside the estate, where her mistress constantly beats and abuses her for no reason at all. Even so, Lise keeps comforting herself, believing that one day Eve will come to rescue her. Suddenly, Eve smashes the door open and enters the room. She boldly declares to the mistress that she has come to take Lise with her. Eve declares that she is going to kill the mistress as well. Terrified, the woman falls to her knees and begs for mercy. Instead, Eve changes her mind and tells Lise they must escape immediately. She warns the mistress to tell anyone who asks that Lise escaped and Eve chased after her. Otherwise, she will return and kill her. The woman immediately agrees. At that moment, Memori, wearing the Demon Lord's mask, enters the room. He tells Eve and Lise to leave first while he catches up. Then he calmly tells the mistress that he already knows she will betray them as soon as they leave. She insists that Xuan will hunt them down. Without hesitation, Memori kills her, then stabs the body several more times so it appears she was murdered by an ordinary person, quietly remarking that people like her do not deserve to live. He soon reunites with Saras, Eve, and Lise as they escape the city through the sewers. Lise thanks Memori for saving them. When Eve notices the sound of running water coming from him, Memori explains that it is the little slime, which suddenly appears before them, leaving everyone surprised. The group eventually leaves the sewers and enters the forest. There, Eve asks why he is so determined to meet the forbidden witch. Memori explains that he possesses a forbidden magic scroll, written in an ancient language, and believes she is the only one capable of reading it. When Eve asks why he would not simply force the answer from her, Memori replies that he is not that cruel. His only goal is revenge against one person. Soon afterward, they reach their horses and head toward the Cursed Land. Before long, they discover a large search party already combing the forest. Although Eve offers to stay behind, Memori refuses. Instead, he releases the horses, luring one search party away, while Eve hides with Lise and Saras remains with him. Meanwhile, the second search party realizes it has become separated from the first. Their commander demands that whoever is hiding reveal themselves. Moments later, Saras, wearing the demonic swordsman's mask, steps out. The commander offers to spare her life if she hands over Eve. Pretending to agree, Saras tries to lure them deeper into the forest, but the commander immediately sees through her plan. He threatens to kill her with a poisoned arrow and demands that she surrender. Instead, Saras removes her mask. The commander is shocked to discover that she is Princess Saras, whom everyone believed had died alongside the 5 Dragon Knights. Unable to believe she defeated them alone, he demands to know who helped her and dismisses the rumors about Ashant as lies. He then realizes that her companion is the mysterious fighter who was supposed to become Eve's final opponent in the arena. Confident that they are completely surrounded, he tells Saras to surrender. She calmly agrees, saying that her role is over. In the next instant, Memori merges with the little slime and casts paralysis, freezing the entire group. He appears before them, tells the commander that he is already too late to capture Eve, then follows up with poison, killing every soldier. Explains that Eve escaped while Saras kept them distracted. Afterward, he tells Saras to rejoin Eve while he waits behind in case the second search party appears. He asks the little slime to merge with him again, but it has completely exhausted its energy. A short time later, everyone reunites. Eve insists on fighting beside him, while Saras takes Lise to safety. Then, the second search party arrives, even larger than the first. The moment they spot Eve, they order everyone to kill her. Memori immediately casts paralysis, freezing the entire force before finishing them all with poison. Suddenly, Xuan arrives with his assistant. He mocks Eve, claiming she is surrounded and destined to die in tomorrow's arena match. Memori attempts to use paralysis, only to discover that the skill has reached its limit. Taking advantage of the opening, Xuan's assistant charges toward Eve. Memori blinds him with darkness, allowing Eve to decapitate him instantly. He then blinds the remaining soldiers while Eve cuts through them, and Memori eliminates the rest with poison. When several soldiers attempt to flee, Xuan kills one himself and orders the others to keep fighting. Eve asks Memori to leave the remaining enemies to her and defeats every last one. Realizing he has lost, Xuan tries to escape. However, Memori regains the use of paralysis and freezes him in place. As Xuan stands helpless, Eve reminds him that he once planned to kill her before beheading him with a single strike. After the battle, Memori uses ice magic to erase every trace of the bodies. Later, news of Xuan's death reaches King Zhan, who immediately orders his soldiers to find those responsible. Meanwhile, Memori and his companions spend the night inside a cave. During the night, Saras asks whether he plans to return to his own world. He replies that he will, but only after taking his revenge. For now, reaching the cursed land remains his top priority, and he promises to protect both Eve and Lise until the end. He then uses sleep on Saras so she can rest while he keeps watch. Elsewhere, Sogu secretly trains under Niantan. Although Niantan warns that Queen Vicious would kill her if she discovered it, Sogu insists that no one will ever know. The following morning, the group prepares to continue their journey. Memori gives Lise new clothes, earning a cheerful smile of thanks. When Sarah suggests naming their group, Memori chooses Demon Soldiers. At that moment, the little slime brings him the Demon Lord's mask. Sometime later, they finally reach the border of the cursed land. A gigantic tree catches Memori's attention, and Eve explains that it is the largest tree in the entire region. After receiving magic from Memori, she creates a map, explaining that only members of her tribe can use this technique. The green marker shows their current location, while the red one marks the Forbidden Witch's home. The group waits until sunrise before entering the cursed land. As they prepare to move forward, Memori vows to uncover the secrets of the Forbidden Magic Scroll, take revenge on Vicious, destroy her kingdom, and wipe out every monster living within the cursed land. Memori declares that he will kill every monster he encounters to increase his strength, adding that his revenge against Vicious is inevitable. Meanwhile, Queen Vicious congratulates the heroes on their progress after clearing several caves and defeating every monster inside them. She informs them that trainers from another kingdom will supervise them and announces that the Demon Empire has begun moving, meaning their next war will be against it. At the same time, Memori and his companions enter the cursed land. As they move through the forest, he says their food and water should last for some time. Suddenly, everyone senses something approaching. A monster appears, and Memori declares that killing it will make him stronger. Eve attacks first, but the creature proves powerful. Memori then casts paralysis, followed by poison, killing it. Eve warns that it is one of the weakest creatures in the cursed land and that far stronger monsters await them deeper inside. However, Memori remarks that the monsters he fought in the dungeon were more dangerous. He begins examining the corpse with his knife. When Saras asks why, he shows her a book explaining that parts of the creature can be used to create cursed tools. They continue until they reach a river. While crossing, Lise nearly falls, but the little slime saves her. Soon afterward, Sarah slips into the water and emerges with her clothes completely soaked. Memori gives her his jacket before they continue. Suddenly, Eve senses two enormous presences approaching. The creatures are so powerful that they tear entire trees from the ground. As they appear, Memori hides behind a tree and waits for the perfect moment. While Eve and Saras remain tense, he focuses only on killing them and gaining more strength. Once they come close enough, he casts paralysis and follows with poison, killing both. His level rises again. He also discovers that parts from their bodies can be used to create another enhancement solution for the little slime. Suddenly, everyone senses an even greater monster nearby. Before they can locate it, something begins moving inside Memori's bag. The egg he brought from the dungeon starts hatching. A small foal emerges and immediately begins growing. No one can tell whether it is a monster or an ordinary horse, but it becomes attached to Memori from the moment it is born. Sarah soon discovers that it possesses a rare organ capable of absorbing magic, a trait found only in magical beasts. Understanding this, Memori supplies it with magical energy. The foal grows larger as he continues feeding it magic. Once the organ is fully charged, its body turns black and grows even more. Still unsatisfied, it demands additional energy. Memori continues until the creature transforms into a gigantic 8-legged beast. He names it Slay, declaring that it will become a valuable member of their group. Thanks to Slay, traveling through the forest becomes much easier. Elsewhere, the heroes continue training, and their strength increases noticeably. Oyamata asks Takuto why he looks irritated. Takuto replies that the monsters are too weak, and that he cannot improve without a worthy opponent. At that moment, two monsters attack Sogu and Captain Nyantan. Although Nyantan and another fighter ask everyone to stay back, the heroes rush forward and defeat them. However, even more monsters soon appear. Takuto steps forward and unleashes a blazing storm, wiping out every creature with a single attack. Meanwhile, Slay returns to his smaller form. Mimori remarks that they are traveling much faster and are finally close to the Forbidden Witch. The following morning, everyone wakes up and realizes that Mimori is missing. Eve reassures Saras, saying that he would never abandon them. When they leave the cave, they find him surrounded by dead monsters while experimenting on their bodies. He appears to be transferring their properties into the little slime. Eve asks why the monsters were near the cave. He explains that he sensed them while everyone was sleeping and eliminated them easily. He is now examining their bodies for rare materials that could strengthen the little slime. Deep inside, Saras realizes that none of them would have survived this far without him. Afterward, they continue their journey until a towering mountain blocks their path. Saras says that even Slay would struggle to climb it. However, Mimori has already found another route to the east. When Saras asks him to rest because he is clearly exhausted, he refuses, insisting they must keep moving before the rain begins. As they continue, Saras wonders why no monsters have appeared. Eve explains that they are approaching the Forbidden Witch's territory, and that the monsters are too frightened to come near it. Then Mimori notices that Lise appears afraid. She tells him that she feels safe with them because she knows he will protect everyone. Soon afterward, Mimori points toward the road ahead and says that crossing it will bring them to the border of the Forbidden Witch's territory. Suddenly, a strange creature appears above Eve. She immediately draws her sword. Mimori tells her to wait, but she kills it before listening. He says that the creature felt unusual, and that its presence made him uneasy. To their surprise, it is not truly dead. It releases a deafening scream, revealing that it is calling every monster in the cursed land toward them. Within moments, monsters begin approaching from every direction. Realizing escape is impossible, Eve offers to act as bait while the others reach the Forbidden Witch. Lys refuses to leave her. Eve insists that going alone gives her a better chance of survival. However, Mimori rejects the plan. He explains that Eve is the only one capable of guiding Saras and Lys to their destination. Instead, he and Slay will lure the monsters away, while Eve protects the others. Saras asks him to return alive. He assures her that he will not die before taking revenge on Vicious. At the same time, Sogu, Oyamata, Takuto, and the other heroes are training with their commanders inside the Cursed Land. Suddenly, monsters attack from every direction. Oyamata and Takuto kill large numbers of them, but there are too many to stop. In the middle of the chaos, a monster attacks Asagi and Kani. Kani abandons Asagi and escapes alone. Left behind, Asagi grips her sword as terror overwhelms her. She remembers how Queen Vicious threw Mimori into the dungeon and believes that she is about to die the same way. She has no idea that he is still alive. Meanwhile, Mimori finds a cave and orders Saras, Eve, and Lys to hide inside. He supplies Slay with a tremendous amount of magical energy and asks the little slime to release the loudest scream it can to attract the monsters. He puts on the Demon Lord's mask and announces that he is ready to face them all. Mounted on Slay, he charges forward as enormous groups of monsters begin chasing him. Knowing that the others are safe, he focuses entirely on the battle. He merges with the little slime and unleashes his full power. Suddenly, a gigantic monster emerges from the trees. However, Slay accelerates to maximum speed, preventing it from catching them. Elsewhere, two heroes are killed by the monsters. Yasu coldly claims that they died because they were weak, and that weak people have no place among them. Sogu angrily reminds him that he was their leader and should have protected them. He shouts that he only cares about himself, then warns that they will all die unless they escape. At that moment, Takuto and Oyamata arrive. With complete confidence, Takuto declares that no one else will die, revealing how much stronger he has become. Elsewhere, night eventually falls, and Mimori's companions remain inside the cave to rest. Takuto tells everyone that they will all leave the forest together, but warns that Yasu may be the only one who dies if he continues behaving that way. Yasu is stunned and asks whether Takuto intends to kill him. Suddenly, Takuto moves with incredible speed and places his sword against Yasu's neck. He warns him not to lose control again, making it clear that he will not hesitate to kill him if he crosses the line. Enraged, Yasu unleashes his full power and declares that he will kill Takuto. However, Oyamada mocks him and asks whether he has lost his mind if he truly believes he can defeat Takuto. Yasu shouts that everyone there is weak and deserves to die, adding that Sogu will be his first victim. He then turns toward Takuto and tells him that he has no idea how powerful he has become and that he will show him personally. Oyamada charges forward to attack him, but Takuto stops him. He does not want to kill Yasu because losing him at that moment could reduce their chances of escaping the forest alive. After Yasu finally calms down, one of the girls arrives and reports that Asagi is missing. Sogu panics and wonders whether she is already dead and what they should do next. Meanwhile, Eve tells Saras that she can no longer wait and is going to search for Momori. Saras tries to convince her to stay, assuring her that Momori is strong enough to return on his own. However, Eve has already made up her mind. She tells Lys to stay with Saras and never leave her side. Saras promises that she will protect Lys and asks only that Eve and Momori return safely. At the same time, enormous hordes of monsters continue chasing Momori. He attacks them from a distance through the little slime before activating madness. The monsters immediately turn against one another and begin tearing each other apart. Taking advantage of the chaos, Momori orders Slay to run at full speed. However, another group of monsters soon catches up with them. He uses paralysis, freezing them where they stand. Even so, the number of monsters is overwhelming. Every time he kills one, 5 more seem to appear. Then heavy rain begins pouring down, making it extremely difficult to see. His magical energy also starts dropping rapidly because of his continuous fusion with the little slime and Slay. Momori realizes that the situation is becoming increasingly dangerous. However, he notices that the gigantic monsters possess enormous amounts of magical energy, and that killing them restores part of his own power. Because of that, he orders Slay to fall back. He then charges directly toward the giant monsters. Using darkness to blind them together with paralysis, he continues attacking with every ability he possesses until they are completely destroyed. Although his magical energy is nearly exhausted, he refuses to stop fighting. He focuses his attacks on the largest monster among them because he knows that killing it will restore a massive amount of energy. He casts poison on it. The monster is torn apart and collapses dead. As a result, Momori's magical energy recovers to an even better state than before. Afterward, he spreads the little slime throughout the forest. He launches attacks from every direction using all of his abilities and kills enormous numbers of monsters. Then he rides away with Slay once again. He notices 2 gigantic creatures pursuing them. Without slowing down, he continues killing every monster that catches up. Suddenly, he leaps from Slay and lands behind the 2 giant monsters. He declares that their end has come. Then he activates poison, killing both of them at once. His magical energy increases once again. It begins to seem as though nothing can stop him. However, moments later, an overwhelming number of monsters appears directly ahead. Momori casts paralysis on them and proceeds to eliminate every last one. Suddenly, a massive monster attacks and knocks both Momori and Slay to the ground. Within seconds, Momori finds himself surrounded from every direction. He charges into battle and fights with everything he has. However, the little slime can no longer endure remaining fused with him. Even so, Momori refuses to retreat. He continues killing the monsters despite even more of them appearing from every direction. Meanwhile, Asagi is lost inside the forest with no idea how to return to her companions. Suddenly, Eve appears in front of her. She asks what Asagi is doing alone in such a dangerous place. However, Asagi becomes frightened and mistakes her for one of the monsters. Without warning, Itsuki suddenly appears and launches a lightning-fast attack at Eve using her lightning skill, nearly dealing her a fatal wound. Itsuki assumes that Eve was trying to kill Asagi. Meanwhile, Eve realizes that the 2 girls belong to the group of heroes that Momori was once part of. Without any hesitation, Itsuki launches a second attack at Eve before giving her any chance to explain the situation. Before anyone can react, Eve successfully blocks every one of Itsuki's attacks. Although Itsuki's strength is overwhelming. Suddenly, Takao arrives at the scene, and it seems that everyone is preparing to attack Eve. However, Takao immediately stops them, explaining that Eve is not a monster, and that she has been trying to tell them that from the very beginning. She apologizes to Eve, explaining that Itsuki is naturally reckless. Itsuki apologizes as well, admitting that she genuinely thought Eve was one of the monsters. Strangely, however, Eve says nothing in response. It turns out that Itsuki's lightning attack has temporarily taken away her ability to speak. After that, Takao tells her that they are heroes summoned from another world. Eve calmly replies that this information means nothing to her. Takao then recognizes who she is and says that she is Eve, the gladiator who escaped from the capital's arena. She asks whether Eve is searching for someone in the forest and remarks that she is clearly not alone. Eve admits that she is right and says that she is looking for one of her companions. However, she deliberately avoids mentioning Memori's name. Takao asks whether she is certain that her companion has not already been killed by the monsters. With complete confidence, Eve replies that he is strong enough that those monsters could never defeat him. After saying that, she leaves. Meanwhile, Memori continues fighting endless waves of monsters without stopping. However, the little slime has reached its absolute limit and can no longer remain fused with him. Because of that, Memori unleashes every one of his abilities at once, wiping out all the monsters surrounding him. He also defeats one of the gigantic monsters, allowing his magical energy to rise once again. Afterward, he ends his fusion with the little slime, while Slay also appears completely exhausted. Memori then removes the Demon Lord's mask. Blood immediately begins flowing from his nose because of the injuries he suffered after falling from Slay. When he opens his status window, he discovers that his magical power has increased. However, despite leveling up, his wounds have not healed. At that moment, he realizes that his body is finally reaching its limit. Even so, he climbs back onto Sly and says that he can still sense one monster hiding nearby, and that it will meet the same fate as all the others. Suddenly, that monster finally appears. Memori charges toward it while riding Slay, and the creature immediately begins chasing them. Unlike the other monsters, this one is capable of using magic. It launches a direct magical attack at Memori. Slay narrowly dodges the first attack. However, the next one strikes Memori's arm. Slay tries to escape at full speed. Another attack hits one of Slay's legs, causing both of them to crash to the ground. Now badly injured, the two of them watch as the monster prepares to deliver the finishing blow. At that moment, Memori puts the Demon Lord's mask back on and fuses with the little slime once more. He prepares to end the battle with a single strike. In the next instant, the monster unleashes a devastating attack that shakes the entire area. But Memori vanishes from its sight. A split second later, he appears directly above it. He activates poison, killing the monster instantly. As the creature breathes its last, Memori tells it that he used the Demon Lord's mask together with the little slime as a decoy before ambushing it from above. The monster dies. However, Memori suffers severe injuries and is no longer able to recover from them for the time being. Even so, he levels up once again. He also acquires a new skill called Evolution. Meanwhile, Slay has completely exhausted his strength and returns to his normal size. Memori tells him that every monster has now been wiped out and that they can finally return to the others waiting in the cave. The only problem is that he can no longer move. Suddenly, another monster appears and is about to finish him off. Fortunately, Eve arrives just in time, kills the monster, and saves Memori. Immediately afterward, Memori loses consciousness from exhaustion. At sunrise, he finally wakes up. He discovers that Eve is carrying him on her back while continuing their journey. Surprised, he asks how she is able to carry him while also carrying Slay and the little slime at the same time. She tells him that her physical strength is extraordinary, so it is no trouble for her at all. She then explains that she encountered 3 of the summoned heroes in the forest. Memori immediately asks whether she mentioned his name to them. She firmly assures him that she never mentioned him at all. Eve tells Memori that she did the right thing by not mentioning his name to the heroes. Memori replies that it is for the best because he wants everyone to believe he is dead until the day he finally takes his revenge. Afterward, they arrive at the cave where Saras and Lise have been waiting. The two are overjoyed to see Memori and Eve return safely. Memori asks Saras to treat Slay, explaining that he was injured during the battle. Everyone then enters the cave. Saras begins healing both Memori and Slay until they fully recover. After that, Eve tells them that she will remain outside to guard the area. Memori thanks her and also thanks Saras for treating both him and Slay. Completely exhausted, he quickly falls asleep. Meanwhile, Asagi is still with Takao and Itsuki inside the forest. She thanks them, admitting that she never would have found her way back without their help. Takao smiles and tells her that they are a team, so helping one another is only natural. Itsuki then asks Asagi why she wanted to leave Sakura's group. Asagi explains that their training methods are inhumane because they deliberately hunt down weak monsters and slaughter them mercilessly, so she no longer wants to remain with them. Meanwhile, Mimori and his companions continue their journey toward the Forbidden Witch. From Saris's behavior, it becomes increasingly obvious that she has started developing feelings for Mimori. After traveling a little farther, they discover a magical seal. None of them knows what it is, and they fear it may be a trap. Even so, they decide to continue regardless of the risk. Soon afterward, they encounter countless magical seals. Suddenly, the rocks bearing those seals transform into an enormous giant. It is about to attack them. However, Mimori immediately casts paralysis, stopping it within seconds. Eve says that they are now extremely close to the Forbidden Witch and asks Mimori to destroy the giant. However, he refuses, explaining that he does not want the Forbidden Witch to mistake them for enemies. At last, they reach the place where she lives beneath the largest tree in the cursed land. They enter the house. However, the Forbidden Witch is nowhere to be found. Instead, they discover a tunnel beneath the house and decide to explore it. Inside, they find stoneworkers silently carrying out their tasks. Eventually, they arrive before a massive door. Mimori begins pouring magical energy into it in an attempt to open it. He quickly realizes that the door requires an enormous amount of magic. He concludes that while anyone might be capable of reaching this place, almost no one could ever open the door because of the tremendous amount of magical energy it consumes. After an immense effort, Mimori finally succeeds in opening it. At the same time, Asagi, Takao, and Itsuki return to the heroes' camp. Everyone had believed they were already dead. Sogu is overjoyed to see that Asagi is still alive. Meanwhile, the moment Mimori and his companions pass through the door, they are left speechless. They find themselves in what appears to be an entirely different world, where clouds cover the ground and breathtaking scenery stretches in every direction. Mimori remarks that everything they see must have been created by the Forbidden Witch. Suddenly, she appears before them. She is standing atop her palace. Mimori says that they nearly lost their lives trying to reach her because she is the only person capable of reading the Forbidden Magic Scroll. Meanwhile, Queen Vitius sends a message to every kingdom, announcing that the Demon Lord has begun making his move. Little does she know that another demon is already preparing to take his revenge against her. The Forbidden Witch introduces herself. She says that her name is Erika and that she is the Forbidden Witch. A sinister smile spreads across Mimori's face as he declares that the day of his revenge against Vitius is drawing near. He swears that he will destroy the entire kingdom and leave no one alive. With that, part 1 of Mimori's story comes to an end. But what will happen next? Will Mimori master the forbidden magic and finally take his revenge on Queen Vitius? Or will Queen Vitius and the heroes succeed in hunting him down before he can carry out his revenge? You'll find out all that and much more in the next part of Mimori's story. See you in the next video. Bye.